GPS. Hey, a technology many of us are familiar with, one that most of us use, or many of us use, getting around. But GPS, it's still a technology that's reasonably new and one that the law still has to come to grips with. Well, that takes us to this week's case, or actually several cases. Cases all basically involve the same thing. And that is, that as you may be aware, the police, investigators have the ability to use a device, a GPS device, that they can affix to an automobile. And they can then track where that automobile goes all day long, all night long, 24/7, can follow that automobile, can determine where the driver's going, where the driver makes stops, where they go from there. In most of these cases, the person who's being accused, and in many instances later convicted of a crime, was convicted of trafficking in illegal drugs. Now, we know there's the Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prevents government from engaging in any unlawful searches and seizures. You have a right to privacy in your home, privacy in your automobile. Now the question is, does putting a device on a car and then being able to see where the car goes, does that violate the Fourth Amendment? Well, the courts have grappled with this, and some courts have said, you know, it really doesn't, because if you put the device on the car, you're just observing where the car goes, and any stranger can watch where a car goes. I mean, good gravy, it's out there in the public, and it's on public streets, and anybody can watch that. So that's not a private activity. That's open to anybody that wants to observe it. Therefore, putting this device on the vehicle and being able to track it 24/7 does not violate the Fourth Amendment. But on the other side of that, there have been some cases decided in which the courts say, hey, you know what? We find it does not violate the Fourth Amendment. It is a legal and absolutely appropriate procedure for police to use. Now, granted, they need to have a search warrant, but once they get a search warrant, they can put that device on a car, track it 24/7, and it's completely legal. Now, what's the difference in the rulings on this? Why does somebody say it's illegal, somebody says it's legal? Well, the difference is the basic viewpoint. And those who say it's illegal look at this and they say, you know, there's a difference between what people can see on the streets, observing a vehicle go by, seeing where it's going, and even if they want to basically trail that vehicle and follow it for a while, that's different than having a device that follows that vehicle 24/7. Because then after a period of time, after a couple of days, after a couple of weeks, who's ever using that device can determine, whoever is using that car, where they go, what places of business they frequent, how often they go there, what friends they have, and basically put their whole life together. And they say that that is different than just every once in a while seeing a car on the street. Because even the police, when they're doing a stakeout, might see a vehicle leave, they can track it, but they sometimes lose track of it, but they don't do it 24/7. Now, this new technology, GPS, allows it to be done 24/7, and that's an invasion of privacy. That's an invasion that was not to be allowed by the Fourth Amendment. But those on the other side say, no, we already told you. It's an open and obvious thing that people are doing. They're on the public streets. Police, whether or not they're using a GPS or simply using their old-fashioned eyeballs, can observe where that car is going, so it's not a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And the reason I'm asking, what do you think about this, guess what? Supreme Court's now going to decide this. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear one of these cases, and they will now consider which of these arguments is correct. Is it an open and obvious activity, or is it an activity that when you put all of these pieces together and after watching somebody 24/7, you have more information than you'd ever know by just watching a car go down the street? Makes a difference. It makes a difference because it makes a difference as to how the Constitution works. You know, Constitution's a living, breathing document. It varies depending on how we view the clauses. It varies depending upon the cases that come before us. As new technology unfolds, we have new challenges. Supreme Court's now going to take up this challenge. We're bringing you this case today and this little discussion today so you understand when you hear this decision what this decision is really all about, and more importantly, how it affects you. I'm David Allen.